What is up, everybody? Renfail here. Hopefully, you are doing well. It is time for another episode in the How to Make a Living as a Content Creator and Streamer series. And this episode is a result of a conversation that happened during the live stream yesterday morning when Destructo raided YouTube with his chat and was talking about this series in particular and mentioned that one of the things he was really appreciative of was somebody talking about the life of a content creator and a streamer because they said it can feel very isolating. It could feel like a very, they feel very isolated. It's definitely something that can get to some people. And I had briefly talked about this, I think, in the episode on mental fortitude, which was dealing more with the trolls side of things and being able to have, the shield of um, ignoring those trolls and having the mental fortitude to withstand that. But the isolation thing is actually another interesting part of this because when you look at it, everything you're doing to build your brand is about building your brand. Even if you're doing multi streaming with other people from time to time, you're still primarily focused on building your dream. It's not somebody else's dream, it's your dream. It's not somebody else's channel, it's your channel. And in order to do that, you have to be comfortable with putting yourself first. And that can be very isolating when you do that because it is very much about me, myself, and I. And as a result, I, in order to do this and do it successfully, you have to be willing to do the grind, which everyone is familiar with. Everybody talks about the grind. The day in, the day out, just always be grinding at this because if you want to turn this into your dream job, then you have to work for it. And there is no if, ands, or buts. It is simply do it, as Chit would say. Do it, lady. Um, you have to be willing to just go. And that means pushing everybody else to the side, even your significant other. And that can be a challenge if you don't have a supportive significant other. Now, I happen to have an amazing spouse who I've been with for 15 years. And she has always been supportive of everything we've done, working alongside me, not only in the travel industry as a photographer, videographer, and a public speaker, but she also carried over and worked on our second game studio and helped push the tabletop um, game out the door. She joined in on the actual play series for that. Um, but never once has she ever questioned anything that I have ever done in terms of pursuing, income online, whatever it has been. All of the things that I've done in the evolution of working online for a living, she has always been there saying, "How can I help? How can I support that?" And that has enabled me to focus in a way that a lot of other people might struggle with because I know that I have someone who has my back, who is always going to be there saying, "Well, what do we need to do to make this work?" And that is not something that everybody has. And if you're living in an isolation bubble, how do you deal with that? And I do think that that is a challenge that um, you have to be comfortable with being alone for long periods of time because even with a supportive spouse, um, I don't. There is no others. What does this right here say? It says Renfail. It doesn't say Renfail and friends. It says Renfail. Everything I do is about me and building this. And even when I'm doing streams in particular, like I'm not, everybody who's a part of the streams, we have people who have been around for the entire journey that I've had building up this channel, and there are people that I can consider online friends. But at the end of the day, I've not met anybody in person. So it is a very isolated space that I live in because I really only interact with my wife. And then if we ever have events, I've gone to some gaming conventions, meet up with companies and representatives in that sense. Um, But to do this, you have to be willing to be comfortable with yourself, be willing and comfortable with putting yourself in that bubble of isolation where you're not going to have a lot of social interaction with people. And that's not something that everybody can do. Extroverts in particular thrive on social interaction, not the interaction between chat and the streamer, but the actual physical interaction of being around other people. Extroverts absorb that energy, and that's what fuels them, as opposed to introverts. I'm a weird case. I think there is a word for it. I don't remember what it is, but it's like I'm an introvert who has bursts of extrovert energy, but after I've expended that energy, I'm completely peopled out. So a good example of this is I love going to conferences. Um, and for those 3 days that I'm there, I'm extremely happy to be there and to be around all these people and to have drinks and go to dinners and be, you know, doing presentations and talking to people and interacting with people. But the moment that that conference is over, I am peopled out for a while and I don't need to have any social interactions with anybody anymore. And I get very cranky after that period of time where I'm just like I've literally drained my social batteries and I'm ready to retreat back to my home. And right now the reality is like where I'm at mentally these days is I don't like to leave the house unless I'm getting paid a boatload of money um, to do so because I'm very comfortable in my home and I'm in my mid 40s now and I've already done everything I needed to do in terms of socialization and relationship building, and I've done all that. And I've been very candid with people about, like, if you look at as an example, when I first started doing this for a living with this particular channel, I mean, um, I was attempting to multi-stream with a variety of other people, and you'll notice that none of those people are still streaming. And I've talked about this in live streams a couple times. None of those people are still around. One of them in particular is completely gone off the internet. And then the rest of them abandoned their channels and went back to their day jobs. Uh, at least one of them I know went back to their job. I don't know what happened to a couple of the other people. I don't know. There's a husband and wife team. Don't know what happened to them. Um, but none of those people are still doing this. And when I look at that, it's like we were talking recently about. Uh, I would love to do another actual play series for D&D because I love that social interaction, that camaraderie of doing D&D. But what I don't like is a reliance upon people who can't take it as seriously as I take it. And this is where I'm very good at being isolated because I'm very good at focusing on me. I've already spent the first 40 years of my life focusing on other people, and now I'm very much on me. And I have goals and objectives. And if I am going to bring other people into the fold to help with those goals and objectives or to be a part of that project, I need the people to be as serious as I am about the project. And the reality is, no one is ever going to be as serious about Renfail's channel as Renfail is because they're not invested in it like Renfail is because they're not Renfail. And I think this is the trigger point for a lot of you who suffer from isolation issues, and you're maybe struggling with the emotional aspects of being alone for long periods of time. You just have to realize that that's what it takes if you want to succeed at this. Like, it's literally the price you pay for doing this. If you go on to be a famous actor or a famous movie star, you deal with the paparazzi and the loss of anonymity. Harrison Ford has been very candid about struggling with that part of loving acting and, of course, being very grateful for the money, but also, you know, hating the fact that he lost his anonymity once he became a famous person because he can't do anything anymore anonymously. It's always everywhere he goes, there's paparazzi and there's people and everything else. It's the price you pay to do that particular job. And recently, Ray Winston, he's a British actor, was talking about. He was doing an interview and he was saying that these days he says it's really even hard, even as an established actor like he is in his 60s, it's hard to get work sometimes because the studios all want you to have this social media presence um, to bring your own fandom to the film. It's not enough that you're just an actor. You're expected to have built up this social media following. And that is something that can only be done if you're willing to focus solely on this, the brand and you yourself and everything that goes along with it. Um, so isolation. You're going to be spending long periods of time, not just in front of a camera streaming, but video editing, and making thumbnails and doing all of your social media. My routine right now, because I've been adjusting the schedule recently, but generally speaking, my alarm goes off at 4 o'clock in the morning every single morning. I am live by 4:30, 4:45 a.m. every single day, and then I generally stream for about 3 hours, take a break for breakfast, go for a walk to the park, come back, do another 2 to 3 hours of streaming. I'll be wrapped up by about 11 o'clock or noon at the latest. It just depends if we have a really big audience or it's a launch day. Like I know with Dune Awakening, we pushed really hard. We did some 12-hour streams because we had like 700 people watching the streams. But on a normal day when I've got like 80 to 100 people, I'm happy to, stream for a few hours, take a break, come back and stream for a few hours. And then the afternoon, usually what I'll do is I'll finish the second stream and then I'll cut some clips, get those uploading to YouTube, get those exporting, make a short, get that on Instagram and TikTok, and then I will just disconnect and go take a nap. And then I wake up from the nap and I do video editing the rest of the afternoon for about 3 hours. And then what I've been doing recently is we're switching it up a little bit and I'm doing a shorter stream in the morning, about 3 or 4 hours in the morning, and coming back and doing about 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon, which is what I just wrapped up doing right before recording this video. Either way, I'm working from about 4:30 in the morning until about 6:30 in the afternoon. I do about 12 hours every single day, um, 12 to 14. It's about 12 if you factor in like the naps and the breakfast and the walk to the park and the lunch. It's about a 12-hour day, but that 12 hours is very much me sitting right here. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. At this desk, with this, I can, all my monitors and green screen, but I mean, I'm very, it's not like I'm a slave to the desk per se. I take lots of breaks and I'm out with Chris. We eat outside together for, our most of our meals. We were doing a lot of during the Dune streams because we had such a big audience. I was doing a lot of eating on stream because I didn't want to walk away from big audiences. But when we're on our normal days, um, take a break for breakfast, take a break for lunch, I take a nap, and I'm happy to do that because I love what I'm doing. And they like when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. You're pursuing your passion in life. And I think that's what you have to find is that switch. If this really is your passion, the isolation shouldn't be a problem for you. And if it is a problem for you, you need to probably do some self-analysis to reinvigorate that sense of this is what I want to do. I want to be a streamer. I want to make a living as a content creator and streamer. But that is something that you're going to have to find within yourself because the isolation is never going to go away. Even if you are doing events with other players, like if you're meeting up and doing multiplayer activities, that's only going to fulfill social batteries. It's only going to charge your social batteries so much because it's not the same thing as having physical interaction with other people. It can go away. It can partially charge you in that regards. And if you're someone who needs that sort of thing, then you should think about. And then this is something that Twitch has done recently too, which is they've allowed people to multi-stream together. This is something that has happened over the last year or so. I believe Co Carnage was speaking on this is probably going to be the way of the future for Twitch is that, and which is why if you look at Co, he does a lot of multi-streaming things with the guys from Drop Frames, because that is a tool where they're all sort of building up off of each other. And if you like that kind of stuff, then you absolutely should pursue it. But I have often found that the hardest part of doing things with other people is that other people often have other things that crop up and keep them from committing to schedules and holding true to that. And that's always been a struggle for me, is that I don't have the patience for people who don't take things as seriously as I do. And that's probably a personal thing. It's definitely one of the reasons why I'm here, and all the people who I was attempting to do things with like 3 or 4 years ago are no longer around, is because I just don't stop. And if you're gonna do this, that's how you have to be. You can't stop. Uh, Bit of a sniffle there. Hopefully, I muted myself. Isolation. I mean, it's just. I think it just comes down to, if you want to do this, that is the price you pay. This is not an office job where you're going to be socializing with people on a day-to-day basis. You can socialize with people if you want to do multiplayer stuff, but that comes with its own set of headaches. But if you can find people that you get along with, and can succeed with, then it can grow to be really cool things. Like the drop frame guys are a good example. The critical role cast is another good example. It can happen. Um, but it's also very, very challenging to find people who are going to align themselves perfectly with what you want to do and your goals. Because at the end of the day, no one is ever as invested in any enterprise as much as the founder of the enterprise is, because they don't share the same dream and the same vision and the same drive to make that thing succeed. I've talked about this in previous episodes on business, where when it comes to working crunch, there's a lot of people who will say, "Oh, poor." I'm gonna specifically speak to game developers here. Oh, poor game developers. They always have to work under crunch. And I always look at that and go, no, they don't. Crunch is often the result of bad management. But the reality is, I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who work crunch, because they get paid overtime. They're compensated for the hours that they work. And as a business owner, not once have I ever been allowed to take a sick day or a mental health day or any of those types of things when I've been in a position where I have contracts to fulfill. Because here's the reality of being a business owner: you don't get to shut off, you don't get to turn off. There are legal obligations that must be met. Someone else who's just an employee can call in sick. You can't. You have a legal obligation to fulfill. And if you don't make that legal obligation, there are legal consequences: fines, court, getting sued. Many things can happen when you have a signed contract and you're supposed to fulfill an obligation. And that's something where, as a business owner, you don't get to shut off. You have to take this more seriously than anybody else, because it is everything you are. It's your reputation is on the line. And in some cases, there are legal repercussions if you fail to deliver. And a clock puncher is never going to feel that. And that's the challenge if you're doing this, is if you want to do it with other people and not just in that isolated bubble, it's going to be very hard to find people who take things as seriously as you do, because they are not the owner, they are not the founder, they are just people who you're trying to bring on board. The critical role thing is very interesting, because they're kind of like a unicorn example of a group of voice actors who were doing D&D in their spare time for fun. Felicia Day came to them and said, "Hey, would you guys like to take your campaign and put it on our YouTube channel and on our Twitch channel?" And they all were like, "Hell yeah, that's awesome!" And they all at the same time got lucky, in the sense that they got cast to be on a network where they all went together. And so it wasn't about just one person leading the charge, even though Matt Mercer is definitely the de facto leader of that group. It was about all of them coming in together as founders and being able to enjoy the success of that growth together at the same time. That is very rare to happen because in most cases it's a single person leading the charge, whether it's Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Zuckerberg, um, Gary Vaynerchuk, like any of these big people who run media companies as examples or tech companies, it's always one person leading the charge. And that person has to get used to being the alpha. And it's a very isolated, I think they've said this before in other places, it can be very lonely at the top of the mountain. And you just have to be comfortable with that. So, yeah, that's a rambling thought process on isolation. If you're going to do this for a living, you just have to get comfortable with it. And hopefully you can have a significant other who is supportive of that. And if you don't have a significant other who's supportive of that, um, finding someone who is a challenge. I'm very blessed that Chris is who she is. And she does all of her things. I'm supportive of her things. I do my things. She's supportive of my things. We meet in the middle. Sometimes we work together on things. We work together on the travel stuff. We work together in game development. We work together um, on other projects. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the latest episode. If you enjoyed, don't forget to check out the other episodes in the series, and we will continue to answer questions as people have them and as I find other topics to discuss about what it's like to do this for a living as a full time content creator and streamer. Until next time, everybody, stay safe and happy gaming.